Hello, Jeff. It is Tuesday. You know what I've noticed? If you type feminism into YouTube, the first page of results can get kinda dark. There is a lot of anti-feminist rhetoric floating around out there, and as someone who greatly respects YouTube's capacity for disseminating ideas, I feel like we really need to respond. Because while there may be no hope for Reddit, I am nowhere near ready to give up on YouTube yet. What I've gathered from watching these videos is that some amount of people online seem to think that they have disproven the concept of patriarchy. For those who haven't studied this, I'll offer my simplified definition of patriarchy being the pattern of social construction that codifies traditional masculine and feminine gender roles, assuming they are both natural and correct. The logic, no, that's not the right word. The attempted argument goes something like this. Step 1. Assume that a society constructed in a patriarchal framework must be beneficial to all men all the time. Step 2. Find any male disadvantage. Step 3. At this point, feminists are supposed to say, I hadn't thought of that. And patriarchy disappears in a puff of logic. Except no. I used to live on a farm, alright? I know what bullshit smells like. Yes, I used to live on a farm. Deal with it. Many of the problems that are brought up as part of these supposed proofs, men-only military drafts, the gender unbalance in the legal system, more money going to women's cancer research than men's cancer research, stem from the problematic assumptions of traditional male-dominant gender roles. So let's hit up those example arguments I noted and see what's what. As a side note, I'm sure all of these things have been discussed ad nauseum in other places, but the internet never forgets. So as long as I keep seeing them, I feel like I need to address them. So if you've heard all of this before, the draft and the disposability of men. Okay, wow, that's kind of embarrassingly easy. Let's look at the ideology behind these. We're told that women are inherently weak. We're told that the presence of women will undermine the integrity of the unit, with the usual BS reasoning that men will either have an irrepressible sexual desire for those women, or they will feel required to protect them at the expense of the mission. Right away, this hinges on some pretty obvious, very patriarchal ideas. The inherent physical superiority of men, the inherent fragility of women, with an extra dose of that traditional religious perspective of women being natural temptresses. So, yay for the idea that men are too animalistic to control their sexual impulses, on top of all that other BS. Same can be said for people who talk about men being disposable and bring up the old chestnut of women and children first on ships, specifically talking about the Titanic, where something like 70% of the women survived and I think 20% of the men. So that's a favorite example of how marginalized men are in society. And again, the backbone of these ideas is that the inherently strong men are required to protect the inherently fragile women. And also children. But I mean, saying they're inherently fragile is kind of fair, because they're not as kind of, they're small. Patriarchal foundations with a negative outcome for men. Wow. Plus, the whole women and children first thing? Bunk. There's a study from 2012, linked down in the description, that shows pretty definitively that while the Titanic, with its, big dramatic sinking, did serve to codify the whole women and children first and the captain goes down with his ship ideas in the public consciousness, most maritime disasters over the past 300 years tend to have a pretty favorable survival rate for both dudes and the crew, because when the shit hits, it's every man for himself. So, back to before. Should women be up for the draft? Yes, obviously. If there is a draft, they should be. Or there shouldn't be a draft at all. However you want to swing it. And the fact that women are not up for the draft is not proof of some secret cabal of women sacrificing men for their own protection or whatever. Say it with me now. Patriarchy. It's a frame of reference, not a conspiracy. Next we have unfair child custody and child support, alimony, criminal sentencing, etc. Wow, okay. Well, assuming that women do get lighter sentences across the board, which most of the research I've found on this topic does tend to bear out, this is, again, pretty simple to tie to Patriarchy. Patriarchally enforced gender roles, see above, before, describe women as being inherently fragile and list child rearing firmly under the banner headline of women's work. The social stigma that's continually placed on stay-at-home dads or families where the woman is the primary financial earner. Yeah, that. It comes from that idea that men should work and financially take care of women because women should not work and instead spend their time having and raising children. Same with the administration of criminal punishments. All that stuff from before. Women are supposedly inherently fragile. Men are said to be strong. They're the warriors, so they're more dangerous and need to be locked up. And it gets even worse when you examine these sorts of things across racial and socioeconomic lines. But there again, we have the patriarchal gender constructs having negative outcomes for men as well as women. It's almost like it's bad for everyone. And the third one is one I've heard a few places, and it comes up a lot around, say, October. There's more money spent for women's cancer research than for men's. Specious. Or I could just say wrong. Whatever. I like the word specious. A study by the Biological Sciences Department at California State University, Long Beach, published in BMC Public Health in July of 2012, so fairly recent, listed the 3 most overfunded cancer research areas in absolute terms as leukemia, which not especially gendered, breast cancer, which is almost certainly the one that people are referencing when they make this argument, what with the Awareness Month and the pink ribbons and the Save the Tatas shirts and all that, and prostate cancer. Do women have prostates now?
I don't.
Okay. Meanwhile, uterine cancer, for example, is among those that actually fall in the moderately underfunded range. I wonder what type of patriarchal influence could shift fundraising money toward breast cancer research, while at the same time short-shrifting uterine cancer. Oh. Sidebar. Breast cancer, like any cancer, or any disease, is serious business, and I by no means intend to minimize that. As far as I'm concerned, every type of cancer research should be overfunded. Exclamation point. What? People say period is verbal punctuation. I'm exclaiming. This is important. But yeah, patriarchy is not all men benefit from everything all the time. That's like the Saturday morning cartoon version of patriarchy. It's not that the patriarchy is some legion of doom that all men are actively and consciously participating in. Reality is more subtle and more sinister. Patriarchy enforces gender-based ideologies that are damaging to both men and women, because they're damaging to everyone. The idea is that patriarchy informs the undercarriage of society, the superstructure beneath things, the dark assumptions that we take as given as we go about our lives, that men are inherently violent and can't empathize, that women are fragile, overly emotional baby makers, that promiscuous women are sluts, that promiscuous men are studs, that men and women can't really be friends. Men work, women raise, women must be Hollywood beautiful, men must be totally ripped. It's not about the stuff that we choose, at least not primarily. It's about the stuff that's in the water, in the air. All the things we didn't know had been chosen for us. So yeah, I'm a dude, and I'm a feminist, and it's really important to me, which is rare because normally I don't want to be part of any group that would have me as a member. Arguing that feminism is only concerned with giving more and more power to women with no regard for anything else would be like saying all computer scientists are only ever concerned with breaking the German Enigma code. It's backward-facing and reductionist to a degree that dives right past absurd and off into the unknowable territory beyond. All humanity should be equal. And if you think feminism isn't about that, simply because the word has the same root word as female, you need to look beyond the surface. There's always more going on, just like how everyone has an X chromosome. This doesn't mean that we're all women, just that we're all connected. See you in the future.
They will see you in the future. They are traveling on.
I actually wound myself up a great deal while thinking about this topic. Specifically, I didn't want to come off as, oh good, here's another cisgendered dude butting his disproportionately large head into feminist discourse, like he knows better than everyone. This recent article by Amy Choi that I found over on the Feministing blog helped turn me around on that. Specifically this quote: "Men have different perspectives on social issues than women do, because they have a different lived experience, just as people of color have different perspectives than white people, and gays and lesbians have different perspectives than hetero people, and so on. This doesn't mean their voices should be excluded, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't learn about those perspectives. Taking femme subjects and making them into women's issues, which only women speak about, is hugely damaging to our discourse. Feminism is a human issue, and we all need to be part of the conversation." Read the whole article. Good stuff. So, thank you Amy for the inspiration, thank you Jeff, and anyone else who happens to be out there for listening, and now I will see you in the even further future.